All right, for this challenge, I want to show you how to use Google Spreadsheets. So go ahead and open up a spreadsheet. Um, Name it Heated Soil and Peat Moss. Of course, put your last name up ahead. So again, if you want to change that, click on it. I am Mr. Borslin, Heated Soil and Peat Moss. And we're going to do some graphing. Feel free to pause here. You need your table to set up like mine. So again, we've got our independent variable in that first column. We've got our dependent variable data in the right-hand columns. And I just want to show you quick how to graph this. So we can grab our data here, just highlight your data, and click Create Graph. All right, what kind of graph is most appropriate for what we're doing? We've got some bar graphs. I know you guys are real big fans of that, so let's go ahead and just do a bar graph. You can tell it to use, right, row 1 as headers, and you'll notice that mine are labeled already. What that's telling it to do is it looks at row 1 on my table here, and it says, what does that say? Let me put those in place where they belong. And then we can customize them, right? What did we test? Right? We tested the effect of sand percentage on change in soil temperature. So your title should always correspond with what you're studying. Our horizontal axis, pretty well labeled here, so I'm not going to worry about it, but our left vertical axis is going to be what? It's going to be our final temperature of soil. We'll just call it soil. You can tweak how your data looks, so we could change the numbers if we want. I think it looks okay. For this one here, right, we've got 3 different trials, so they need to show up on our table. And that looks pretty decent, so I can say go ahead and insert that, and it'll show up on my page. Now, I will tell you I'm not a huge fan of this table or this chart. All right, this is a table. This is a chart that displays our data visually. And the reason is look, we've got all our raw data just dumped out on here. It makes it a little tougher for comparisons. We can see generally there's a trend that as you get rid of sand, it seemed to warm up more, at least with the blue, but then you look at the yellow and it's kind of all over the place, and the red is kind of up and down. So we want to, when we do multiple trials, we want to make sure that we help out our audience by sharing the key data. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to insert a column to the left here. And I'm going to set in some new numbers. So this one I'm going to call the average. And let's call it average, yeah. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell the computer to do some math for me. So I'm going to say this one equals, so note the equal sign, and then I'm going to use the word uh, average. Right, and you can see that it throws up some opportunities for me. You can read about it. So I'm going to take the average, and then we got a parenthesis, and it wants to know what values. Now the beauty is you can just highlight boxes. So I'm going to average these 3 numbers, and then I put the other half of this bracket around here, right? And then I hit enter, and now the computer is going to calculate the average of those 3 numbers. Now to save myself from having to do that multiple times, note when I grab on the corner of a box, right, I get the little crosshairs. And what that allows me to do is copy whatever is in that cell down. Now, it smartly copies anytime you have an equals. It smartly realizes that you don't want this row 3 to just do the average of row 2. You really want to do the average of row 3. So now we've done it this way. So now we've got the averages that we can graph, so we can look at these blue boxes, which is a little better. And at this point now, I would go back into my graph and say, all right, advanced edit. I think we should change our data set. So go back to the start. Here's our opportunity to change our data. I don't need all of our other stuff, right? I just want all of my data right here. So reselect your new data range that you want. Okay. Now I've got something that shows me what goes on. So now we can see that going from sand to sand and potting soil really doesn't make a huge difference. They're pretty close. But when we're all sand, it really changes how much this temperature fluctuates. So we can update this graph. Don't think we need um, I don't think we need our legend anymore, right? If there's only one thing being graphed, then our legend is not really useful. So legend is right here under the title, and I can go no legend, and that makes me happy for this graph. So now we've got our final heated soil and peat moss, or heated soil temperatures. Questions? All right, so I added a new tab, and this one is our peat moss tab. Again, I've got all the data in here for us, for me, so pause it, get it down on here just like you need it. And some things to think about, right? They were not listed in the order of the percentage of peat moss. So make sure that when you take that table, you rearrange the data so that we see our changes go directly here. Now you see I have 100% sand, 60, then 40, then 80% sand. That is absolute chaos. So let's bring this 80 up. So now that we have 100% sand, 80% sand, 60% sand, 40% sand. Now they're all in sequential order. We can do some good stuff with it. Again, we got 5 trials here. So let's add a column to the left. Let's call this our average um, amount of water held. And let's put that in milliliters. This is science land, and that is a proper unit for us to use. Liters would be too large. Again, we'll use our formula, average. We're going to take these 5 cells, close it off with the other bracket, hit enter, and then we can drag that formula down so it takes care of us. Now I can grab this 2 columns and insert chart. All right, again, what kind of chart do we want to use? Do we want to use this? I think it's a great one because it's showing us volume, right? And I like bar graphs to show volume if I'm talking about volume, how much water is being held. And we can customize it again, right? And we're looking at the effect of um, peat moss, and I'll shorten it, percentage on water retention. I can spell this today, tension. Legend I don't think is necessary. I'm going to instead label that horizontal axis. Well, the horizontal axis is labeled. We're gonna label that left vertical axis um, milliliters of water held out of I forgot what it was, 200. We'll just say milliliters of water held. How's that? All right, looks pretty nice. We can insert that graph. We're pretty happy. If you want things to look different, right, you have an opportunity to, right, click on something. Oh, I want to change the title. Great. Hit enter to apply. All right, I want to maybe change the background. So if I right click on here, or on the Chromebook, it's 2-finger tap. If I want to change or edit the axis, or here, change the chart type. If I want to change the chart area, um, maybe I want something different. Like maybe I want the background to be bright orange. Woo, that looks terrible. Oh, let's not do that. So, so let's pick a different color. Maybe a soft orange. That's a little more gentle on the eyes. Maybe I want this to be a different color. So maybe we want to make this a nice burnt sienna. Oh, that's lovely, right? So play around, make the chart look the way you want. I'm not too picky about it. The key again is the chart. Do we have the title? Um, do we have our axes labeled so that it's clear to your reader, your audience, what's being displayed? Does this graphing, is it accurate, right? I would look at here and I say, look, we're going from 70 to 110. So this really makes it look like the peat moss makes a huge difference. So I would argue that our minimum should be 0 here, and our max can be 110. And you notice how suddenly it doesn't look like as much of a change. And that's because we're not chopping the legs off of everything. We're not looking at just the change, but we want the total change to reflect the total volume. So now it doesn't look as dramatic. which is fine, right? This is accurate. The other one was an exaggeration um, that was trying to highlight this, and that I think is a little disingenuous as a presenter of knowledge. Um, so that is how we create graphs on Google Spreadsheets. So I hope that was successful for you. It takes time, it takes practice. You will need to get good at this. Your test will include you graphing something from data that I give you. So muck around in here, see what you can get done, and I hope you've enjoyed this lesson.